Hello, and welcome to Fastener Connect. It is my pleasure to introduce the next presentation. But before I do, please note that we are recording the presentation to make it available to view on demand. We are inviting attendees to write questions into the chat function from where we will read them out at the end. But now, I will hand over to Matthew Lynes, Tony Armstrong, Jonty Lynes, and Ryan Crawley of Hafren Fasteners, who will be presenting Stamping Out the Impact of Theft Globally, a guide to security fasteners, screws, fixings and fasteners, types, uses, and more. Over to you.
Hello, and a very warm welcome to Hafren Security Fasteners here in Newtown, Wales. My name is Tony Armstrong, heading up the sales team, and we are together collectively Team Orange, and we're all about stamping out the impact of theft globally through the medium of security fasteners. Now, to my left here, we have Ryan Crawley. He heads up our marketing team here in Newtown. To my right, we have Jonty Lynes, who is our export head of sales and development worldwide, as well as Europe. And then finally, to my right, we have Matthew Lynes, who's the managing director of the Hafren organization, and a great privilege it is to be here today. So the plan today really is just to share with you some updates and some insight into security fasteners, really from an educational point of view, to help you understand a little bit more about them, what they're all about, where they can be used, and so on. And so the team individually will be picking up little slots during the presentation this afternoon and talking you through a little bit more detail for that. So without further ado, I'll hand over now to Matthew Lynes, MD. Over to you, Matt.
Thank you, Tony. Okay, so thanks again for joining, and we're here today to talk to you about stamping out the impact of theft globally. So theft, what is it? Unfortunately, it's happening all around us all the time. You'll see appearing on the screen in a minute some pictures that I guess you're all familiar with, unfortunately, but we have the Land Rover Defender. Ironically, this is a police vehicle. The doors, the bonnet, they've been removed, they've been stolen. Another picture on the screen, bicycle, regular sight in our towns and cities everywhere. This one's got the wheels removed. I've witnessed it myself in city centres where you see bicycles, parts removed all the time. And what a nightmare that is. Yes, you can replace doors, you can replace wheels, etc. But what about the wider impact? What we're talking about now is stamping out the impact of theft globally. So theft, yes, a wheel may be stolen, you can buy a new wheel, but what about the owner? What happens when the owner comes out to take the bicycle and ride for an appointment? Does he miss the appointment? A police vehicle, that vehicle's practically useless in its current state. Police have an emergency call, they can't attend the scene, they can't attend the incident. So the impact of theft is huge. It's so much bigger than just a product. And when you think about the stats of theft, we're talking bike theft here in England and Wales in the last 12 months, 77,000 bicycles stolen. That's just over 8 bicycles per hour removed from somewhere, taken. Unbelievable. Vehicles, every 6 minutes, a vehicle is stolen in the UK. Should we just pause this webinar when you want to quickly have a look outside, check your vehicle's still there? Rail and transport, everybody is familiar with it. There's a heck of a lot of cable, copper cable, wiring, keeps the tracks running, keeps the trains on time. Cable theft is a massive thing globally. 22,000 hours of passengers delayed in the last 4 years at a cost of £61 million. What can we do to stamp out this impact? Trespassing. Somebody removes a piece of fence to gain access for whatever reason they choose. Do they know who else might be accessing the rail track behind them? Unknown to them. Maybe a poor little child stumbles through it inquisitively. Trespassing equated to 44% of all disruption to rail services in the last year. That's 10,000 hours. So the reason we're talking about all this, some of these instances, they could have been avoided. Using anti-theft security fasteners, we can avoid some of this impact. So what we're talking about now is the financial cost. Yes, things can be replaced. You can replace parts, you can buy new products, but financially, we're just talking about the tip of the iceberg. So stamping out the impact of theft globally is so much more than just replacing a product. We need to be thinking constantly about that. So why Why do we use security fasteners? As you can see now on the screen, security, the number one reason. Safety, number two. What about visual? Security fasteners have a much greater aesthetic appeal to them. They look so much more interesting, more aesthetically pleasing than a standard screw. Protecting IP, so maybe you've got some intellectual property that you need to protect from the competition. And then finally, legal. What have you got to cover your backs? Because you don't know what's going to happen to you legally if one of your products or some of your property fails. Also on the screen, a number of other applications there: design protection, souvenir hunters, vandalism, aesthetics. We've covered a lot of them. Crime, I guess, is obvious to you. Defence, the Ministry of Defence, our security services, health and safety. There's so many reasons why we need to use security fasteners. And it's all about stamping out that impact of theft. So in wrapping up, before I hand over to my colleagues, stop the criminals before they start is the message. If you can use the correct security fastener, the correct anti-theft nut, bolt or screw, in any of these instances or any instances that you may know of, you will be helping in stamping out that theft problem that unfortunately is ever increasing all around us. So now I'll hand over to my colleague, Ryan, who will take us through the 4 Ds of crime prevention. Thank you very much.
So how do we stamp out the impact of crime? We use the 4 Ds of crime prevention: deny, delay, detect, and deter. Deny, in terms of security fasteners, is by using an unconventional security drive on the fastener, and so stop people from accessing the application with conventional tooling. Delay is to slow down the criminal's attack of that application, which in turn leads to detection. The longer they take to attack that application, the longer somebody has to spot them, whether it's a member of the general public or authorities. Deter, by making that application more secure, it's less likely that the criminal will pick it in the first place. So what is a security fastener? Well, I'll pass over to my colleague Jonty Lynes to answer.
So, what is a security fastener? Security fastener can be any standard fastening that has been specially designed and engineered to prevent unauthorized removal. So it can be a nut, it can be a bolt, it can be a screw, it can be an anchor or an enclosure, or any other type of fastening you can think of. We can offer tech screws, self-drilling screws, whatever you think of. There's bound to be an option out there with a security version. So next, what are the types of security? All security fasteners are split into 2 categories. Number 1, the one-way permanent fastenings, or number 2, the two-way removable fastenings. So it must be considered before providing the solution for your application. One-way fasteners cannot be removed. So once installed, if you need to maintain the product, this is not a suitable option for you. Whereas the two-way fastenings require a special tool to be able to install and remove. So how do you remove tamper-proof screws? Well, with great difficulty, unless you have the correct tooling. So it's always worth considering these aspects. Now I'll just show a very quick video of a few of our different products. So there you see the self-drilling screw, great for any applications involving metal, saving time in production. You see the no-go, that's a maximum level security enclosure using any standard bolt. You see a couple of examples of attack testing, so you can see the resistance that our fasteners provide. Concrete or other substrates like tarmac, anything like that, you can use anchors for. You see the scroll, a great fastener, love the design, but again, you require that special tool to install and remove. And lastly, the sew lock, maximum security again, each tool being like a fingerprint. It's completely unique to you. Now, what else do we need to consider when we're thinking of security fasteners? Okay. Level of security is relative to the risk level. So here we talk about the risk being the likelihood and the severity. So what is the risk it's defined by that likelihood. So how likely is your product to be stolen or vandalized? This can be impacted by things such as the availability, how accessible your product is, or maybe on the other side, how desirable it is. People may consider stealing signage from a public place. It may not be considered very desirable, but you think of a place like Buckingham Palace, where the sign may be taken by souvenir hunters. Then we think about the severity. What impact does this theft or vandalism have on society or you as the owner? It may not be just the monetary value. Think of what Matthew was speaking about earlier. With the train services, it can cause huge disruption to not just one person, but hundreds of people. And also you have to consider the value. So think of something like museum there shown in level 4. The value of artifacts nowadays in society is humongous. These things all have to be considered when considering security. Now, we're disappointed not to be able to meet you in person, but this forum is great, and it's a great opportunity for us to look back to Stuttgart 2019 and the Fastener Fair. My colleague Ben Cooper is there to demo our fasteners on the Hafren demo block. Over to you, Ben.
Our demo board, and starting at the left hand end here we have our patented Kinmar removal product, which is a fantastic design. You have these small wave shapes, which is goes onto the driver socket here. You get a fantastic engagement, and you can actually remove that with the correct driver tool, which is patented as well. And we have that in stock in a nut form. We do a stainless steel, Dacromat and a zinc plated version. Fantastic product. We also do a Kinmar permanent version, which has a similar socket, but these orange segment shapes, you can only turn that clockwise. If you try and undo it, it actually comes off there.
You can hear it ratcheting back.
That's right,
so
yeah.
It's a permanent fixing.
Absolutely, so that's brilliant for anyone who wants to have a guaranteed torque level.
So high security, high level security.
Yeah, absolutely. We have the scroll nut and scroll bolt.
This is intriguing. I've seen these, but I didn't actually know how they work.
Fantastic product, this one is very intriguing. So you have what looks like a walnut well, but actually this is manufactured in stainless steel and mild steel as well. Has a driver which has ball bearings inserted, which actually go down the sloping edge there, and you get enough torque there to get some high Newton meterage, much more than you'd actually need, but you can actually remove this as well for maintenance. So brilliant product. We stock it in a nut form, right up to M24, and that is a whole range that we stock. Then we have the no-go product, which is enclosure.
So it's like a retrofit, this one.
Yes, absolutely. You can do this. You don't need a special tool. All you need is a hammer. So this bolt here goes through what we call the base part, which goes down, and then you have a cap. Once you tighten that with a standard socket, which will fit in there, you then hammer the cap, which goes right home, and then that's the finished result there.
There we are. So
it's hardened steel.
You cannot remove that. That's totally fixed.
Absolutely, So as you say, you can be retrofitted to shutters. Brilliant for bike stands. We sold them for putting boilers into properties that sometimes before they're occupied they can get stolen, which is a significant cost implication.
Yeah, good point.
Moving on here to the armoury, another one of our patented products, simple conical cap, which you hammer onto a hex head nut or bolt. So again, don't need a special tool. We stock them in stainless steel.
It's a retrofit as well.
Retrofit. So that's hammered down onto a hex head bolt there. You wouldn't even realise there was a bolt underneath.
No, sure.
So smooth finish, has health and safety benefits there.
So you don't get injured.
You don't get injured, or people catching their clothes on bus stops, or we sell them a lot for the skate parks in the city centres. A lot of urban regeneration going on. So that's a cracking product, the armouring. And there it is on a nut as well. That's the thread come through with a hole in the top. This product here is the good old shear bolt. So you'll see there that's manufactured to produce that pit, which at a predetermined torque will snap off. You discard the hex part, and you're left with that tampered resistant cone, which you'll see the finish there. So again, don't need a special tool, you see the socket. Fantastic range that we actually stock.
And that comes off at a desired torque
Yes.
Yeah.
Then we have the shear nuts here, which as you tighten that down, similar thing happens with the recess here,
Yes.
which then the metal shears and the hexagon part is discarded to leave the tamper-resistant cone on the stud. There are a whole range here of self-tapping screws, machine screws. The Sentinel is another one of our IP products, where you can only tighten it clockwise. When you try and undo it, standard posi, don't need a special tool.
Yeah.
Absolutely, that's the sort of more recent version of the good old traditional clutch head, which was one of the original security screws.
Yeah.
With a slotted driver, if you try and do it, that cams off that sloping edge.
Yeah, so again, that's a permanent fixing as well.
Absolutely, yeah. Then we have some removable ones here. The pin hex product, which has a driver tool with a spark corroded hole, which then fits into the recess, and that will then go clockwise and anti-clockwise for people with maintenance where they may need to undo it. We have the good old-fashioned two-hole product, sometimes known as pig nose or snake eye.
Yes.
Aesthetically pleasing. Has a range of driver tools that we stock a whole range on there. Then we have the pin torques, which is a 6-load pin. Goes into the recess there. You get a very good engagement, and we stock a whole range of those. Machine screws, self-tappers. We even do a self-drilling screw in that. Sometimes those as a tech screw.
Yeah.
So that has a tip where it drills into the metal. So for any fabricators manufacturing products like railings, burglar bars, signage, anywhere in the metal industry, that's a winner, that product there.
So you have to drill any holes that just literally
That's
go
right,
straight in.
into the metal, so it's very popular. We do it in a button head as well as a countersunk.
Yes.
Then we have the Power 6 screw here, which is a tri-lobe. You can see the thread there isn't just circular, it has a tri-lobe like a tap-type recess.
Just get a close-up on that one again.
On the thread there.
Yeah.
So you'll see from the end there the shape.
Yeah.
And the special recess there is a unique shape torques.
Right.
So you have a driver tool that will fit there.
Yeah.
This product here is called Soloc, which we have a unique shaped driver tool, which
So this is top end. This is
top
high
end. This is what we
security.
call number 5 on the maximum security. Security ratings. So you've got your own unique shape, so it's a little bit like a key and a lock. So you have that recess there, which then the driver key fits into. You find the right place where that will fit down. There we go.
There you go.
Click.
So, click.
So then the customer has that unique configuration, which then they keep, and we can order more screws, maybe in a different style, in a self-tap as well as machine screw that could possibly take that same driver key that goes with the screw.
And that's licensed to the
Absolutely,
individual.
yeah, that's right.
How many combinations?
So there's they tell me there's millions.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't need, with hundreds or thousands, still going to be very secure.
Yeah, very good. Very good.
And this one here is what we call a 5-lobe pin.
Yeah.
Torx Plus, which has the 5 separate lobes, which comes into the recess there. You get a very good torque on that.
Yes.
And it's a different drive than the standard 6-lobe pin, offering the extra security. And that's a range where we're expanding. Look out for the new products in that range soon.
Yes.
And then here we have the 6-lobe pin barrel nut, which is a fantastic product in stainless steel.
Yeah.
And excellent for clamping loads on glass or furniture or special fittings, prisons, schools, hospitals, playground equipment has a great uses for this.
Yeah.
So you have your male part, female, which comes together. We stock those in a great range of metric machine screws. So that will give you a brief outline.
Another thing to consider is the material or finish of the fastener. The right choice depends purely on the requirements of the application. Each finish or material offers its own level of benefits: corrosion resistance, hardness, or look. When we consider corrosion resistance, A2 and A4 stainless steel offer increased corrosion resistance in comparison to just zinc plated. A2 being graded for use in external applications, and A4 right up to marine level corrosion. In addition to material and finish, something also to consider is thread locking and patching. There are a number of different types of patching, from anti-vibration, and also locking threads that can be applied to the security fasteners. We also offer lubricating patches as well to improve installation speed.
So one of the exciting things about security fasteners and their applications is the diverse environments in which these fixings can be used. As you can see here, anything from flagpoles through to street lights, to roof lights and rail stations. We've touched on those a little bit earlier, but also moving into more infrastructure areas as well. So typically bus stations, shopping centres, car parks, they all have a need for some level of security. And as we say here, can you really afford to ignore the fact that your machine or your car park meter could be vandalised and stolen? What's the impact of that? When we look at some of the international sports occasions, we don't give it a second thought often, do we, about the security in football and rugby and other stadia, where suddenly chairs and various other things can become missiles in the wrong hands. Equally, in the hotel sector, the consequences of a window that opens a little bit too far for a 3-year-old or a 2-year-old to inadvertently open up a bit too wide, it's almost unthinkable of what might happen. Equally, keeping people out too. We live in a world where inner cities are being developed left, right and centre, lots of flats and high occupancy buildings in perhaps areas that could be more secure. So thinking about that. And as we mentioned earlier on, in the prison sector, custodial areas, there's all sorts of things we need to be thinking about here, not least of which is prisoners perhaps self-harming and preventing that kind of event happening, as well as taking things off that could be used as weapons against others in the same institution. They are continually fighting and stamping out the impact of that theft. We touched on earlier about museums and galleries, and here I think we looked earlier at the T-Rex and the knock-on effect of some of those artifacts being stolen. In this case, a great big steam engine, you know, the removal of one particular nut or bolt could cause catastrophic mishap to the machine itself, causing irreparable harm, and even the barriers around it. Thinking about the environments in which case, in which these things are featured. And again, back to city centres and infrastructure. We talk in the UK about the London network, the tube, also up in the northeast as well. I know in Paris and New York, elsewhere, there are transport and rail links, not just underground, but overground as well. And it's in the signage, it's in the seating, it's in the even the panels within some of the train carriages themselves. All of these things can be damaged, vandalised, stolen, used as a weapon or whatever. And a classic we've touched on earlier, we saw Ben Cooper, who's our OEM automotive guru. Again, in this area, automotive, we're continually trying to suppress the impact of theft of cars and trucks and lorries worldwide. And if the thieves can find a way in to these cars, then they will do. And we're continually working with people like IATI internationally to stamp out the impact of theft of cars and working in collaboration with police forces.
Excellent. So a very big thank you to everybody for joining and listening in today. We hope the webinar has been interesting and helpful to you. We've certainly enjoyed it ourselves. So I've got Team Orange with me still here, ready to answer any questions you've got. Very happy to help, and we need your support. Please join us so that together we can stamp out the impact of theft globally. Thank you very much.